Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Work Matters. It is a foggy October Wednesday morning, and we have the great privilege of being with some friends here who I'm very excited about introducing to you. If you're new to this video podcast, the purpose of Work Matters is to introduce you to members of our church so you can get to know them a little bit more. We really value knowing and being known as far as membership and as the family of Christ is concerned. And we also want you to know the good work that they are doing. Some of our members, most of our members are doing work in a secular environment. Many of them are doing it in a vocational ministry kind of environment. And that's the case this morning as we welcome Adam and Hope Smith. Welcome, guys. Thanks for taking time to be with us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's jump into this. Let's get to know you guys a little bit, and then we will discuss also a little bit of the work that you guys do, which I think is really interesting and fascinating. And for viewers who are super curious as to what it is, just look closely at Adam's shirt, and he will give you a hint of what that might be. How do people get swag? That's what I know. That's what people really want to know. How do they get swag? Maybe you can contact the Smiths afterwards, and they can hook you up. All right. Well, guys, tell us a little bit about yourselves. Maybe like where you grew up, and how you came to faith in Christ.
Okay. I guess I'll start. My background story is a little different than most. I grew up traveling and moving a lot. So I don't really have a hometown. I never exactly know what to say when people ask where I'm from. I moved probably about 30 times before I was done with college. And I stopped counting after that point, but I'm probably close to about having 50 addresses at this point in my life. But Nashville, Tennessee was kind of the closest thing I knew to a hometown because my dad was born and raised there. So when we were moving throughout my childhood, my grandparents lived there. And so that was the one kind of constant place. And so we go there on vacation and holidays and stuff. So yeah, I had a bit of a varied background.
And why did you guys move around so much?
My dad's job just transferred him a lot.
Okay.
About every year or two, we'd get transferred to the place.
Wow.
Yeah.
I grew up not too far from here, in Dublin, Virginia, which is a very small town close to Radford, Blacksburg area in the mountains of Virginia. So this place feels like home to me. And I grew up in a Christian family. My parents were new, surrendered to Christ believers and growing in their faith. And so at a very young age, I think I was 4, when my mom was at a women's Bible study. And so I went to like a kids study during that time. And it was after we watched an animated video of Abraham and Isaac. And I just felt really convicted that I needed to accept Christ in my life. And I remember crying, and I prayed. And my mom asked me about it later, asked me, she thought I was about the age to make that kind of decision, and, presented that to me. And I said, Mom, I've already done that. So I think I definitely had that assurance of salvation at an early age, but the growth and sanctification process and really surrendering every area of my life was I think I really owned my faith more in high school, college.
Okay. Adam, how about you, man? Did you grow up in a Christian home?
I did, yeah. I grew up going to church from as long as I can remember. Obviously went to a lot of different churches, having moved around a ton.
Yeah.
So, but I kind of similar to Hope, I invited, in the words of a 4 or 5 year old, I asked Jesus to come into my heart at that age. And I remember it's saying that prayer probably 100 more times throughout the next 10 years, just to make sure that I was being sincere, because I didn't trust myself that I was sincere like originally. So yeah, just to make sure that I was good on that front. So, but yeah, we grew up going to church and being involved in the church in a lot of different ways.
Okay. Man, I can only imagine the number of churches you have visited and been the newcomer at and had to register for the first time and all that fun stuff. How did you guys meet?
Oh, yeah. We met in Indianapolis, which is where we lived before we moved here. I had originally moved to Indianapolis in 2004 when I joined staff with Cru the first time. I joined staff with their music ministry, which is based out of Indianapolis. And so I was there for about 15 years. Hope went there for college.
Yeah, I went out there for college to Butler University. I didn't want to go so far away from home, but they had a really good dance program, and that's what my plan was. And God had other plans, so I stayed out there, went to Miami University in Ohio for grad school, and then went back to Indianapolis and worked there for about 5.5 years or 5 years before we met. So I was working at my alma mater, Butler, and he started volunteering with the Cru campus group. And I was friends with a lot of them from when I had been a student. So we got set up by some mutual friends in ministry. And yeah, it was we were headed in the same direction at that point. Mm-hmm. I guess he had gone into the public sector after working with Cru's music ministry, and then became a firefighter for how many years?
About 5 years. And then that's when I started volunteering at Butler, and a staff couple there who Hope knew and I got to know. They connected us, and then the rest is
history. That's amazing, man. Well, sometime want to hear some more firefighting. I want to hear some firefighting stories and some of your adventures with that. All right. So you mentioned Cru. Most of our listeners, I think, are familiar with that organization, but you guys are like kind of like a specialty niche market within Cru called Athletes in Action. There's the great reveal on the shirt. Swag them later. Tell us a little bit. What is Athletes in Action? What does Athletes in Action do? And then tell us a little bit more specifically about your ministry within AIA.
Yeah. So Athletes in Action as a whole, as you said, Roddy, it falls under the overall umbrella of Cru, and it's a ministry that focuses towards athletes using the platform of sport to help athletes understand the gospel, meeting them where they're at. Athletes, specifically on college campuses, they live a kind of a separate life than a typical college student, because they're either in one of three places. Typically, they're either in the classroom, practice, or at a game. So they're involved with their sport and then studying. So most college students have more freedom in what their time looks like. But athletes, especially on college campus, typically are underserved spiritually, just because they just don't have as many opportunities with their time to get involved. So we really, instead of expecting them to come to us, we really try to go to them and meet them where they're at in the midst of their busy schedule and their lessened time availability.
Okay. So, I think maybe FCA is something people are familiar with, Fellowship of Christian Athletes. I know you guys partner very closely with them on the campus of UNC. How, if someone were curious as, what are maybe some of the distinctives? What makes AIA a little bit different from FCA as far as focus and approach? What would you guys say to that?
Sure.
Yeah, I'd say that they are very similar, and so we do love partnering with them. But kind of the origins are a little bit different. So Athletes in Action started more with professional athletes and kind of traced their way back, realizing that these athletes that were in pro sports were saying, like, we didn't have anything like this in college. And FCA kind of started, and their big focus was high school. And I think the way we go about ministry, FCA kind of, we use the term like they major in the group meetings. I think they call them huddles. And that's a real strength of theirs. And I would say Athletes in Action really majors on discipleship. And that's, even resource-wise, is a really big strength of ours. So it is a great partnership because you can kind of get both aspects there. Yeah. So we've really been blessed because that's not the case on every campus when there's both ministries. I think it takes the right people at the right time to form a good partnership. So,
yeah, that's wonderful. So I was a college athlete myself. We had FCA only at my small campus. We did not have Athletes in Action. But I did have some friends who were connected with Athletes in Action, from my campus. Somehow they got connected with chapters and other campuses. And they told me some crazy stories about like some of the summer stuff and like going out to Colorado and you have to like a 24-hour endurance thing. Yeah. Is that tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that specifically is just one of a number of different summer missions opportunities that athletes can have, and that camp, what you're referring to in Colorado, is called Ultimate Training Camp, or UTC for short, and it's where athletes go out for a week, and it's an intensive time of going through what we call the principles, which is understanding the principles of being able to use their sport as a way to honor and glorify God. And so they have classroom time, and then they go out and they learn how to implement that through labs where they're playing sports together and learning how to put those things into practice. And then at one point during the week, like you said, the 24-hour thing is called the special, and they literally they're being physically active in one way or another for pretty much 24 hours straight, and they
are on teams. Yeah, so it's not just one person that has to keep going. They can kind of rotate, but it's really, they push them to the breaking point, kind of physically, while also really building into them spiritually. There's people that are speaking scripture over them as they encourage them in their 30-minute wall sit. Yeah. And so there's usually some really neat revelations that come from that as people have been in that space for a while. So,
yeah. Hope you just said 30-minute wall sit.
So we didn't witness that, but yes, the other AIA staff member, Brianne, who's with us at UNC, was at a UTC in
Puerto Rico this summer.
Wow.
And there were two wrestlers that did like 30 and I think like 31-minute wall sit. Yeah. And both of them were really like felt the Holy Spirit moving.
Wow.
And it just needed to take some time and like process what was going on internally, spiritually, while they were doing that too.
Wow. Viewers, just for reference, we're about 14 minutes in. So just double that and then you can get off the wall. That sounds, this sounds treacherous. That's amazing. And Adam, you got to go to South Africa recently, right?
I did.
Hope you were not able to go. Is that correct?
I did not go on that trip.
Okay. Yeah, well, so AIA, you mentioned, kind of started with a professional focus, now really focusing primarily, as I understand, on the college campus and the unique challenges and needs of student athletes. but there's an international component to the work as well. So tell us about South Africa, what you guys were doing there, and what hopes for the future look like.
Yeah. So I got to go to South Africa the first 10 or so days of August this year, and I got to experience what the ministry there looks like. So a brief summary of what the South African Athletes in Action ministry has been in the recent years. Within like the last, I think, 2 or 3 years, they've pretty much had a complete turnover of their staff. So some of the higher leadership, literally like the AIA national director and some of the people directly under that woman had to transition into a different ministry or a different place in their life, just due to family circumstances and just life stuff. So someone that we actually knew from here in the States had moved over to South Africa. He didn't realize that he would be taking on such a high level role when he moved over, but he's a very strong leader, and his skill sets suited him stepping into taking on the national director responsibilities. So he brought a team of us over to basically just the term he used was experience. He wanted us to just experience the culture, experience the ministry, just literally follow the staff there around on campus to help us understand the difficulty there is in just trying to meet new athletes. It's the athletic world there on some of the universities is very different than here. Here you can walk around campus and you can pretty much pick out an athlete because they have all the gear on.
Right.
There, they don't necessarily have the funding to look different than a normal student. So it's a lot more just organic as far as going about ministry. And so they're kind of trying to restart things to get some momentum of having a foundational level of students involved, so that the movement can start growing and have an impact internationally from there. Because there's a lot of athletes that from the northern hemisphere that come down there to train during the northern hemisphere's winter because it's warm down there. So for us, looking forward, it's really exciting because we get to send teams over there, whether it's annually, for their version of UTC that they will probably host each year, and just being able to interact with the international athletes that will be there at that time. So a lot of what we can help provide is I guess not manual labor, but just bodies to be there, manpower. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking of. Manpower to be there during that time to literally just tangibly help put on one of those camps for them, because right now they have 4 staff, and that's between like three universities. So they're spread very thin. So we can help in that way, and that's exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love the fact that you're providing, not only helping them, but you're also providing exposure to student athletes from over here as well, and some cross-cultural kind of work. That's wonderful.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you mentioned a little bit already about student athletes and the fact that they have time constraints. Tell us a little bit more about that challenge and what other challenges you guys perceive that they are facing.
Yeah, I would say, like what you said, time is probably the biggest challenge in doing ministry with athletes. When I know for me personally, that was an adjustment coming from having experience just with like a normal, college ministry, where students typically have a lot more freedom to determine what their schedule looks like, whether it be their daily schedule or their weekly schedule. So when we first got here, it was a transition to have it happen frequently, where I would have a meeting set up with the athlete, and then like literally day of, maybe even within the hour, they would text me and say, oh, our coach called us in for this reason or that reason or whatever. So, have to reschedule. And so that has been a learning curve. But it's helpful to us to know what pulls at them, so that we can, I guess, know how to better serve them. So we can flex how we need to, so we can better serve them with the constraints they have.
I think some of the other challenges for student athletes is that they're in the spotlight a lot of times, especially with an athletic program at the athletic department at UNC. It's very prestigious, and so there's a lot of pressure. Like, they have expectations for their grades, so they need to keep up with that. A lot of them are on scholarship, and so that can relate to the academics too. Mm-hmm. But they're also feel a lot of pressure in their sport, on the field, on the court. And then if they're in the spotlight, if they're, people know them from seeing them on TV, there's just a lot of pressure. Like any other student, they might have pressure coming from parents as well. But it's that additional pressure of kind of having to be on their game, be performing. And so we do see a lot of struggles with identity, and seeing their value in like how well they do in their sport, and kind of their identity tied very closely to what they do, what sport they do.
Or how well they do it also.
Yeah. So, and honestly, that's a big reason why we wanted to work with athletes, because for both of us, that has been part of our personal story. I mentioned that I went to Butler for dance, and so that's performance-based, and I definitely really struggled with that. And it was a good day if I did well in those classes, and it was a bad day if I didn't. And so some injuries were really helpful, really low point, but helped me to grow spiritually, because I was kind of forced to sit out and wrestle with some of those questions about, like, well, if I'm not doing this, who am I? So that was really good for me. And I can look back and really see how God was very gracious in allowing me to go through that time.
Mm-hmm. Something I try to tell them often, or help remind them of in a loving way, is I try to help remind them that no matter how good they are, or no matter how good they end up becoming, in the end, unless your name is Roddy Dinsmore and you just stay an athletic stud your whole life, then in the end,
tell us more.
Eventually, biology is going to win. I mean, you could be literally the top in the world, and at some point, you're not going to be able to be at that level anymore. And whether that point comes sooner or later, there has to be something else that you're falling back on with your identity than just simply your sport performance or how well you do it.
Yeah, that's really good. If I could take a minute or two to share just a little bit of my story that I'm resonating with, is after my freshman year, I really was convicted in college. I was convicted of the reality, the fact that soccer was a glory inducing, I don't know what the right word is, a glory funneling thing for myself, and I liked the attention on campus, and I liked the attention from other teams and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't handle it well. And the Lord convicted me so much of it that in His grace, I actually quit the team after my freshman year. I was like, this isn't good, for my soul to keep playing. That was a pretty big decision, obviously. But the Lord gave me such a sweet gift of my sophomore year. What I decided to do is, I'm not on the team anymore, but I'm going to travel and to every game and support the guys. And I'm going to lead a Bible study also. And that was actually the year that the Lord really gave me a ministry on the team. And then I went back and played my junior and senior years, and the Lord had kind of reset that foundation for me. Like I'm there to serve the Lord and to serve my teammates versus so I can get all the recognition. And it was, no pun intended, it was a game changer for me.
Yeah.
And a really significant part of my story of like wrestling with that identity issue, Hope, that you were mentioning, right? I mean, I'm like, okay, I'm really clinging to this identity. How do I resolve that? Well, kill it, right? It's gone. And in that act of obedience, I really felt like the Lord was really kind to me. So sweet part of the story. So if you're listening, quit your sport, start a Bible study. That's the moral of the story here. No, that's really helpful. And, and of course, a lot of what you guys are talking about, I mean, even just thinking, preparing, like having something, beyond ourselves that we anchor our lives on, right? Mm-hmm. Just the importance of that. And that obviously is true. I mean, for me as a pastor, it's like, oh, what if I weren't a pastor anymore? It's like, mm-hmm. Is my identity tied up in that? For you guys as AIA staff members wearing swag, like if you couldn't do that anymore, what would that mean? Do you lose meaning? Do you lose significance? Right. I think that's just such a healthy thing to wrestle with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, as we all know, like that wrestling can be there in the corporate world, too, in different aspects, whether it's, a paycheck or what you own, yeah.
That's right.
For those things to take precedence in our life.
Yeah. Okay, maybe one last question. Obviously you guys are a parachurch organization, so you're an extension of the church, of the local church, and you guys are members here. As a quick little plug for everybody, Adam and Hope are actually our newest missionary partners. And we're going to be commissioning them on November 13th during both services. So this is a primer for you to get to know them before they're up on the platform with me. But, just the question of like, what is the role of the church? How can the church come alongside your ministry? How can we come alongside ministering to student athletes? So if a student athlete walks in to worship on Sunday morning, should we like start chanting their name and like ask for their autographs, that kind of stuff? Is that the right thing to do? Or do you recommend we do something different?
Probably something different.
Okay.
I think I would say first and foremost, just prayer. Prayer for us as team leaders at UNC with Athletes in Action, prayer for the athletes, prayer for open doors with coaches. They're kind of the gatekeepers of their teams. Prayer for our partnership with FCA. And I think we really desire for the athletes to not consider us like just their church, that they, can take part in campus ministry and then not leave the campus. And so we really encourage them to find a local church and be part of the local church while they're in college, because that's something that's so integral for spiritual growth and spiritual health for the rest of their lives. So if any student athletes come to Chapel Hill Bible Church, welcoming them in like you would any other student, I think it's really important in athletic ministry that we take an interest in them as a person and not just as an athlete. Because that can, if it's just the athletic part, that kind of emphasizes or reinforces that identity complex. So just welcoming them in, being encouraging, and yeah, I would say talk to us if you're interested in additional opportunities. We do love for people to be able to come to our weekly meeting. That's always kind of an open thing, and we can give you directions about that. But it's on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. and Roddy has spoken. Yeah. But it's our big group meeting, and so partners are welcome to come to that and kind of see what happens there. And that's kind of a good introduction if they're really wanting to see more of what takes place on campus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great. And then also you guys serve in the coffee ministry here at church, so great opportunity. In between services, grab a coffee and learn a little bit more about AIA and get to know you guys.
Yeah. Get caffeinated too.
That's right. Fantastic. Well, guys, thank you so much for your time. So glad that you are a part of this church, first and foremost.
Thank you.
So glad that you are new missionaries of the Bible Church, and we are excited that the Lord has called us to partner with you and to encourage and support you. And so I want to encourage our viewers to, pray for Adam and Hope, pray for their ministry, partner with them financially, get to know them, encourage them, ask them how you can participate in reaching student athletes, and just be part of the family of God that comes alongside them as they do this good work. So thank you guys. Look forward to being up with our brothers and sisters in corporate worship in a couple of weeks as we commission you, and keep up the good work, and see you at coffee sometime.
Sounds good.
Bless you guys.
Thanks.